Started with a thank you for everyone for being here today. Before we get started, I just want to provide some brief introductions of the panel. My name is Dimitri Kunin, Senior Program Director with the Division of Professions and Occupations. I oversee the Board of Pharmacy and the Prescription Drug Monitoring Program as a Senior Program Director. With me, I have today Justin Whiff. Justin?
Hi, my name is Justin Whiff. I am the Program Analyst for the Colorado Prescription Drug Monitoring Program.
Thank you, Justin, for being here. Sharon?
Hi, I'm Sharon Azello, and I'm the Director of Fiscal and Compliance Services for the Division of Professions and Occupations with DORA, and I work with the contracts.
Thank you, Sharon. Christine?
And I'm Christine Confers. I'm Contract and Procurement Administrator.
Thank you all. Thank you, Christine. Thank you for attending this pre-application conference regarding the upcoming posting of the Request for Applications, or otherwise known as RFA, pursuant to Colorado House Bill 22-1115. The purpose of this RFA is to solicit applications from qualified integration organizations that healthcare practitioners and pharmacists may use to integrate access of and data entry into the Colorado Prescription Drug Monitoring Program, otherwise known as the PDMP, and a patient's electronic medical records. Practitioners and pharmacists located and operating in Colorado who have not yet integrated their electronic medical records and PDMP may then request and receive integration services and implementation from an awarded integration organization. The purpose of the RFA is to increase integration and defray all or a portion of the costs to the healthcare organizations, prescribers and/or pharmacists for integration of the PDMP and electronic medical record. This RFA is issued pursuant to House Bill 22-1115, which allocates funding towards this purpose. This RFA will be open to qualified integration organizations that meet the eligibility requirements that will be described in the RFA, who will provide integrations for PDMP and electronic medical records for Colorado healthcare practitioners and pharmacists who have not yet integrated, up to the threshold levels described in this RFA. Awards under this RFA are intended to defray, in part or in whole, one-time costs of integrating electronic medical records with the PDMP for healthcare practitioners and prescribers to increase PDMP use and accessibility. The PDMP electronic records integration RFA will require integration organizations or applicants to provide an application in response to the RFA. The application must be fully completed and include the total cost per integration, as well as the number of integrations the organization is requesting funding for. Each applicant is responsible for determining the number of integrations it is able to fully complete within the grant period. DORA will review submitted applications and advise qualified integration organizations of any award. A small dollar grant award will be issued to awarded applicants. No work under the RFA may be completed until an award entity receives a small dollar grant award from the state, which will have a beginning and ending date through which the integrations may be completed, and an awarded amount. The awarded amounts represent reimbursement amounts, and organizations who are awarded must submit subsequent invoices to DORA for reimbursement upon completion of the integrations. Integrations will be verified by the state using the PMP Gateway, RxCheck, or PMP Clearinghouse as applicable prior to reimbursement. DORA anticipates the RFA to open soon and to end on March 31st, 2023. DORA anticipates awarding grants in April 2023 for an implementation period beginning on the effective date of the small dollar grant award through May 31st of 2024. The total duration of an awarded small dollar grant award shall not go beyond the current grant funding period of May 31st, 2024, unless the state determines that a sufficient amount of funding remains unspent to award an additional amount under the award. In collaboration with the applicants, the extension period with additional funding, if any, shall not go beyond December 30th, 2024. Funding for this project has a limit outlined in the bill. Applicants should determine a feasible number of integrations to be requested during the grant or funding period, representing the number of integrations it is capable of fully completing within the RFA timeframe. DORA reserves the right to award funding at an amount below that is requested from an applicant, as described in this RFA, and to award a second round of funding to initially awarded applicants at a later date with remaining funds, if any, under this RFA. This RFA process allows any qualified integration organization who meets the qualifications described herein to apply with the goal of integrating as many practitioners and pharmacists as possible. Applicants must submit a description of all costs requested in the project application. The applicant is responsible for market research to determine its customer base for integration, which are limited to healthcare practitioners and pharmacists which are located and operating in Colorado and who have not yet integrated their electronic medical records with the PDMP. DORA reserves the right to deny reimbursements for any integration that does not meet the statutory requirement eligible integration pursuant to House Bill 22-1115. DORA does not have and will not supply information on which organizations are not yet integrated. Costs requested must represent the amount the applicant normally charges for integration services or less. Increases in standard pricing for the purposes of applying for this grant award may result in the application being denied and the applicant being ineligible for funding. All integrations submitted for reimbursement will be verified by DORA prior to reimbursement. Upgrades to existing integrations or existing integrations are not eligible for reimbursement. We may not be able to answer some of the questions in this meeting due to the procurement process, but your questions and feedback are invaluable as we finalize the language in this RFA to ensure clarity regarding requirements, eligibility, expenses, small dollar grant award, and reimbursement process. Once the RFA is published, all questions or requests for clarification will need to be submitted to the procurement officer listed in the RFA. So with that being said, we're happy to take questions related specifically to the RFA process. And please go ahead and submit them in the Q&A portion of Zoom. And we'll go ahead and review those, and I'll refer them to the appropriate individual for an answer if we can answer. But again, we won't be able to take any specific hypothetical questions of, do I qualify or not, or things that may reside in the RFA, and you will be provided that once the RFA is published, and those questions can be submitted if the RFA does not clarify them through the RFA's question and answer period. With that, unless there's any specific call outs or additions from the panel, maybe something I missed or misspoke, Sharon, Christine, Justin, and anything to add before we get into the questions?
I have nothing to add.
No.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and look at the few questions that have come in. One is asked, is there a maximum award? And I think that speaks to essentially the small dollar grant potentially. That will be outlined in the RFA, but Christine or Sharon, is there any comment you can provide on that at this time?
Small dollar grant awards, the maximum small dollar grant award is $250,000.
Thank you, Sharon. Another question that came in. So one individual asks, what types of organizations are eligible for applying? I believe that's going to be, outlined in the RFA, and I do want to just remind attendees we can't really specify who will or will not be qualified.
But we can say that we are requesting applications from vendors that provide services to integrate a practitioner's essentially native health information technology with the Colorado PDMP, so that any costs that those vendors normally charge to practitioners for those connections could be reimbursed in part or in whole under this RFA process.
Thank you. Another question that came in, will reference materials or links to reference materials be sent that offers the background related to the information presented here. So this will be, the information will be pretty detailed in the RFA. Beyond that, reference materials, I'm not sure if there's anything else that can be provided. I know there's going to be attachments to the RFA in terms of the application. Sharon or Christine, I don't know if you want to speak to any of that. Otherwise, I can go to the next question.
The RFA will be posted on Colorado Vendor Self-Service, VSS. So that, when it's posted, should have everything, any attachments that you need for applying. And as Dimitri said, the this webinar will be posted not on VSS, but in a different location.
Thank you, Sharon. Another individual asked, where can we go to see the requirements of the program, who will and will not qualify? So those details, again, will be in the webinar. I apologize, in the RFA once posted. Also, if you want more information around the PDMP and its integrations, it's on the DORA PDMP website. So an easy Google search will guide you right there as well. Is there a list of electronic medical records that are compatible with the Colorado PDMP? I would say that's something that you as a stakeholder may want to work or ask your current vendor that provides that service for you about that. Justin, I don't know if there's anything further that can be added regarding that.
I can tell you that a very large majority of your major EHR platforms, pharmacy management systems, and certain numbers of even the standalone electronic prescribing software does have the ability to integrate their system with the PDMP. But each EHR vendor would have more detail on exactly the nature of that integration, the process that they require for connection, and additionally any costs that they may normally charge their clients for that connection.
Okay, thank you. And I'm just pre-reading some of these really quick. So I'll just read this one out loud. I don't think we can answer it. Sometimes EHR vendors do not have an exact amount it will cost to help perform an integration on their side. So is it possible to include language in the RFA that direct costs from EHRs would be covered? Should there be a difference between the estimated average cost per integration versus the actual cost charged by the EHR? I know to some degree in the RFA process, we speak to direct and indirect costs. Sharon or Christine, is that something that we can comment on at this time?
I think the RFA is going to explain it better.
Okay.
I think once you read the RFA, that would be more clear. There will be an inquiry period once the RFA is posted. So if you do have questions after reading it too, related to specific costs, you could use that period to submit questions there too, and those would be published to everybody.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I just think that the area of cost, that's going to be, all the information will definitely be in the RFA. So I don't think this is an area to discuss that.
Yep, sounds good. Yeah, and I think there were a few other questions around that I think that answer can be applied to as well. What types of organizations are eligible for application? So I know I outlined those earlier, and those details will be in the RFA as well.
Yeah, just to reiterate, if you're a practitioner or pharmacist and you are interested in integrating your system with the PDMP, we're not requesting applications from you or your healthcare organization. This period with the request for applications is for the vendors that provide those services to apply, and in that application describe their activity around PDMP integration as well as costs. And subsequently, once vendors are determined to be qualified for this award process, a practitioner or pharmacist or their organization would be working with their vendor to get integrated and have essentially all or a portion, depending on the award amounts, et cetera, to be reimbursed by the state to that vendor, those charges or some of those charges that would normally be assessed to the end user or their organization.
Thank you, Justin. Somebody asked, how will we get alerted when the RFA is available? So for individuals that are not familiar with this process, can either Sharon or Christine discuss where it's posted and if alerts can be set up?
So I know for the most part, we don't put a commodity code in there that will just trigger for this type of project. But we normally will send out like emails to let everybody know that it definitely has been published. I would say that you could also even look in there and just inquire, do a search. But if you're interested, I guess maybe we could get some emails, addresses for individuals who want to be emailed. Sharon, did you have a list like you normally provide of individuals that you want us to send this information to?
I'm happy to take that, Sharon, if you'd like.
Sure.
So, Christine, we do, and we can follow up with the individuals on this call. Because Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, we should have the registrations from the call, and we'll follow up with this group as well as any other applicable individuals or organizations that we've had originally that we're aware of to provide that alert. So once it's posted.
I'd say if you received the email notifying you of this event, that I'd anticipate you being on the recipient list of an announcement as well.
Yep. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Justin.
Yeah, and I was just going to confirm we do have that list.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, it looks like that wasn't addressed a number of the questions. Somebody asked, what happens if a healthcare center changes their EMR? Do they have to reapply? And I'm going to jump or leap with an assumption here, thinking that this question is framed in the sense of they apply and they're in the application process for the RFA, but then their underlying circumstances change, right? Is that a question that should be reserved for the Q&A period of the RFA, or Christine or Sharon, have you heard of that come up? I don't know if indirectly they're also asking, can it be withdrawn or changed either during the application period or after?
Well, I would think if you were already, if I understand the question correctly, you would already be working with a vendor who is going to be reimbursed for the costs associated with integration, but then you decided to switch. I guess it would be dependent on if you're, I mean, have they already done work for you, or I don't know. That's kind of an odd question. I think that would have to be maybe addressed as it occurs. I wouldn't think that would be very common. But if you're already integrated and you want to change vendors, then it would not qualify because you're already integrated. And this is for those that have not integrated.
Got it. Thank you. One last question. Let me just double check it. Do organizations qualify that currently have a PDMP integration with a vendor and don't want to continue using that vendor and perform a new integration with a different vendor? So again, I would refer that back to what was stated earlier, as well as what will be in the RFA.
Yeah. The vendors will be the ones applying here, and then once they are deemed qualified, then they'd be working with organizations for setting up new PDMP integrations through
Yeah,
their
and
service. Yep. I don't know if we can
And I'll reread that
That's
part
helpful beyond that.
again, right? The RFA will be open to qualified integration organizations that meet the eligibility requirements that will be described in the RFA. Will provide integrations for PDMP and electronic medical records for Colorado healthcare practitioners and pharmacists who have not yet integrated.
Correct.
All right. And that is all the questions I see. Just looking through the audience, I see one individual has their hand up with the initials WR. If you do have a questions, please chat it through. And it looks like they just lowered their hand, so they may have been just latent. I'll give it another minute for any other latent questions to come in. And seeing none, give it another 30 seconds. With that, I very much would like to thank all of our attendees for being here and spending a moment of their time to learn about this opportunity. Very much want to thank our panel, Sharon, Justin, Christine, for assisting and really providing the foundation to implement this. I very much appreciate your collaboration on it. And Sarah, I don't know if you want to close us out.
Thank you all for joining us today. We will send out the RFA to the people who are on this webinar, so you should be seeing that shortly. With that, I don't have anything additional to add, Dimitri.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.